Hello, good morning or good afternoon. I'm here with you while I'm speaking on another place because today you have your event and I was asked to explain in depth the specific requirements for multi-actor projects. Later on, I will also speak about the cross-cutting issues and about the future because we're close to a new period of 7 years. And it's good to know a little bit on beforehand what happens. This one is still important because we have another call to do. What I am presenting are the requirements as they are in the 2019 call, because the 2020 call, for which you and the people in your country will make proposals, is not official yet. But I can assure you there will not be much changes. What we did with the multi-actor requirements is in fact make them more easy to tick off. We made 6 bullet points, clearly separating the most important issues. And in this way, this can only help you. The principles stay the same exactly as I will tell you today, which come in the end from the 2019 call, but will be more or less the same with a few words changed and a few bullet points added. So where does this multi-actor approach come from? From the constatation that the classical research, the linear research system didn't work anymore to have a good impact and uptake by end users. For some applications, of course, it is still the best way to work. But if you want end users to take up certain solutions, it's better to work with this interactive innovation model that we have applied. And you see it here in the middle of the slide with the 4 lines that are the most important. We use this interactive innovation model both for the Horizon projects, the multi-actor projects. They are labeled multi-actor each time with a footnote in the work program, and the text linked to that footnote is in the introductory part. But it is a full part of the topic, so it's very important to look to that introductory part also to know what exactly is expected from those topics. So the principles of this interactive innovation model, it's all about having more impact with our projects, and that's why we are going to collaborate between various actors to make the best use of their complementary types of knowledge. So we try to mix in scientific knowledge, practical knowledge, organizational knowledge from entrepreneurs, maybe people from administrations who know the rules on a certain topic or whatever. So this is open and it depends on the type of topic, but we want to mix these different complementary types of knowledge with a view to co-create. So these actors that are involved have to work together, create the solution or the opportunity together. And at the same time, this helps to communicate, diffuse also the outcomes, the solutions, what has been developed in the project much quicker, much better, and make them ready to implement into practice. Because the practitioners in your project, they will say this or that is feasible or not feasible because our context on our farm or in our enterprise is like this or that, and they will help the other people involved in the consortium to make better solutions that are much easier to implement into practice. And the advantage is that we also have a number of intermediary people in the project helping to co-create those solutions, and they already from the start of the project start promoting, telling that they are involved in this project and that this and that is being developed. So you gain time, in fact, with your dissemination. You don't wait after 4 years to share information on the project. It starts from the very beginning, and our experience now, coming from a just finished independent evaluation, is that this model, as we apply it for operational groups too, is in fact creating a third circle around the project itself by people who are already knowing about it, testing a few things on their own farm or on their own, in their own context, and they also cross-fertilize back to the project. So the system, this interactive innovation model, really works very well for various reasons, because we have these complementary types of knowledge, because we get co-ownership, because the people who are involved feel like this is what I helped to create, so they are proud on it, they want to implement it much easier, and also what we create is much more ready to implement, it's much more easy to apply. So there's plenty of reasons why this has been a success. We started it in 2014, and it's these 4 lines that are the key things to remember when you implement and when you design a project that is a multi-actor project. Of course, we have extra elements to help disseminate all this. We have an EIP network which links the actors and helps then the knowledge flows, and also helps to collect practice needs for this type of project. So it's typical what we want to see under open science and open innovation. So the system, the bigger picture of the EIP works like this. We have 2 policies, 2 funding sources that are working in a complementary manner. We have rural development, which is funding coming from regional or national level. And with this funding, we can fund either the preparation of proposals. We can, of course, fund the proposals themselves. And we also fund, and we will strengthen this in the next period, I will tell that later on, we can also fund innovation support services who can bring people together and help to draft these proposals in the very best way. So that's the rural development part, which is funded through CAP money. And we make this connect with the Horizon part, where we have, of course, European projects. You know that certainly as good as I know that you have to have at least 3 countries. Normally we have 10, 15 countries working together, even sometimes more. And there we have the classical research projects, still as before, to provide the knowledge base, but we introduce now in this period these interactive innovation formats, the multi-actor projects, and we have a dedicated format which covers bottom-up ideas and things that need to be tackled because there is a need with the end users to do so. We call those thematic networks. They follow the same multi-actor approach. They're just a topic that we have again and again each year. And each year we fund 5 projects under this topic thematic networks. And they are all interactive innovation projects who generally involve farmers or other end users. It's not always agriculture. Advisors, enterprises, researchers, etc., all along the project. So these work together in an interactive way. We have our networks, both at EU level and at the level of member states and regions, who try to connect the 2 sides, the 2 policies. And there, of course, you are key persons as NCPs to connect, to take contact with the people from the rural development side, which are called in this period NRNs. In the future period after 2020, they will be called CAP networks. So they have in each of the countries networks who know where the operational groups are and who can help you to connect with these operational groups. So the multi-actor projects therefore have this little sentence at the end of the multi-actor approach saying involvement of operational groups is strongly recommended. And that's of course very important that you seek help to find the operational groups who are working on the similar subject as the topic your consortium will be working on, and that you connect with them, because more and more our evaluators, when they get project proposals in, they start to understand the system. The first 2-3 years it was a bit difficult because it was new, of course, but now they're really looking for signs of operational groups who are working on the similar subjects and with whom the multi-actor projects intend to connect. And they're not happy with a general sentence, we will connect with operational group projects. They know there is information out there to know which projects exactly are working on which topics, and they expect like a table with the operational groups in the various countries who work on a similar subject as the multi-actor project. So try to illustrate that in the proposals, that you have made this connection. That will give you extra notes for your project. Another way of interconnecting these two policies is through the unique EU repository, where you can find the contacts of all the people, whether it is multi-actor projects or operational group projects. You can find those responsible for those projects, and you can also find short, what we call practice abstracts. It's not a research abstract, it's very short, only 20 lines, but it's enough to know what they are doing in order that we can connect the people. That's the real reason for this unique repository. So don't expect, like you would for a research abstract, a full content of what is happening in that project with all the details about the research work. It's a way of knowing what happens where, and it's a way to bring people in connection and in contact. So that's our 3 ways of connecting the 2 policies. So having involvement of operational groups in the multi-actor project brings extra notes. Connecting through also activities that these networks in the countries or at EU level do. They bring on the subjects that they choose, they bring operational groups and multi-actor projects together, that they can start knowing each other and start working together. And then there's also this website where we have the repository of all the interactive innovation projects. So 3 ways to make connections between our policies and look for synergies. So it's all about using all the brains that you have, and including all those that you can borrow. So not work as a researcher or between researchers alone, but have this complementary knowledge into the project. That's what is important in what we call now co-creation. Now, we come to the definition of the multi-actor approach. And as I already told you, it's not in the topic. It's fully part of it, but because we didn't want to repeat it in 20 or 30 topics, always the same text again, we've put it in the introduction. You see there the link where you can find it. So all the conditions for this approach are the same for any multi-actor projects, and they are fully valid and form part of the topic requirements. So don't mix it up with these cross-cutting issues I will speak later about, because this is really evaluated and scored, which the other ones are more an internal issue to follow up. Now, important notes. Don't mix up multi-actor approach with multidisciplinarity. Neither with interdisciplinarity. Multidisciplinarity has several scientific disciplines several researchers but it doesn't take in other types of actors. Interdisciplinary projects already take other actors in, but we miss this focus on end users' objectives, this obligation to have practical outcomes, the co-creation effect, the co-ownership effect, etc. Also, living labs don't have that. So it's really something very special, this multi-actor approach, with this big focus on improving impact. It's not applied research neither. That's the second bullet. And we often see some confusion here. Applied research is still, in principle, the researcher doing his research, but then somewhere, could be in a living lab or on a field or wherever in an enterprise, but it's still the researcher taking the decisions and setting out how the project will evolve. While multi-actor approach is really cooperation, working together and finding out together how to go on and which steps to make. So it's not applied research neither. It's all about impact. The reason why we are so specific in our multi-actor approach, even compared with living lab, which is quite fashionable now, we want to go a bit further to ensure that we have real impact and that people don't feel like guinea pigs in a living lab where still the researcher is organizing and dominating. We want people to have the feeling they are working together, and by that the end users are inclined to take up the solutions, because we want to see value for money. We invest a lot in research and we want to see something coming out and changing the society or the agriculture through it. Okay, next slide. Next slide. Okay. 2 key elements not to forget. Multi-actor is not the more the merrier. Some researchers came to me a bit worried, saying, if we want to make multi-actor projects, then, and we have to have all the actors in all the countries involved, we will have at least 50 people in the consortium. But that's not what we're aiming at. It's not the more the merrier. You don't get extra points for extra partners or extra beneficiaries. It's about choosing the right ones who can help you, who have a key position, who can help you in connecting with the farmers, who can help you with the communication, the dissemination in having understanding farmers' needs, etc. So it's not the more the merrier. That's not the idea. It's also important to know what we mean with end users. End users are those who will use the results of the projects. And the best way I can illustrate that is through a discussion that we had on IPM practices, a project developing practices to reduce the use of pesticides. And people said, in the end, also the consumer will have a benefit from this, and the retailers want less pesticides on the things they sell, so they will also be end users and beneficiaries. But there's a big difference, because your project will need to be implemented by somebody, and that somebody we call the end user. So in this example, the end user of better farm practices with less use of pesticides, that's the farmers and the advisors who give advice on using or not using pesticides. And of course, other people and the society will also benefit. But if we speak about the needs of end users, it's the needs of those who will implement the results of your project directly, and not the indirect beneficiaries. Now, the key elements, the 3 most important principles of this interactive innovation is, first of all, to focus on end users' problems and opportunities, to find them. This is not obvious if you're a researcher and you work on a university and you have little contact. That's also why in the future ecosystems we are aiming at having a number of occasions, events, field trips, whatever, where researchers can meet end users to know about their problems and opportunities and to know about the context in which they are working in. But this is one of the elements that is often not well judged by evaluators, but because it is too much obviously clear that the researchers drafted this project just because he wanted to have some fancy research abstracts coming out of this research, and is not interested at all to solve some end users problems or opportunities. So this is something really to take care of, because only then you get co-ownership. If there's a real need, your end user will really be interested in the solution, and if he's involved in even developing it, all the better. He will really feel it's my solution, we made this together, it's co-ownership, and I feel like really implementing this solution. So this is already one really to look at, and which is still ready to improve further in our multi-actor projects. Secondly, we want to bring together the most relevant partners. I already said it's not about having the more the merrier. It's those who can really help you, who have a good position in their country to make connections, to have the solution, and also to make promotion on the project while it's running, to involve end users to come to look what is happening before the end of the project, so ready to promote the project and the solutions that are coming, so that you don't lose time, because projects that run for 4 years already, if you have your dissemination only at the end, when you have your results, the awareness about what's coming is only at the end of your projects, and you can gain time by, like, after 1 or 2 years already getting end users coming to see what is being developed, and getting them motivated and interested in the project. So look to those relevant partners who have this complementary type of knowledge, and who might be good multipliers, good communicators to bring this, maybe even media, people from farmers' journals or people like that, advisors, farmers' organizations, ministries, whatever. And then the third big principle is this cooperation all along, from the beginning until the end, all along the project, that they cooperate, that they feel at an equal level. Partners are not dominated by one or more researchers, that they really work together in an open way and co-innovate all along the project activities. So if you have those 3 key principles in mind, then already you have 80% of your multi-actor project approach understood. Now we come to really the bullet points as you have them in the introduction. First of all, I have to explain to you the difference with the stakeholders board. Stakeholders are, and you see this at the bottom of the slide, they are persons expressing a stake, expressing their views, and you have them often, we have that for decades already, stakeholders board in our projects. They ventilate the stake at a certain moment, probably in the beginning, in the end, and somewhere in between. But they have no decision power, and often the consortium listens to it, makes a report, and that's it. I heard stakeholders complaining about that. So what here in our multi-actor projects is the difference, is that the actors are really partners of the projects. They take part in the project activities, and they contribute to the outcomes with their help about saying this is the right way to go, this will become difficult to implement, etc. So they are real actors and not stakeholders. This is a big difference in the terminology, and a big difference with just putting in place a stakeholders board. Not that I underestimate the usefulness of a stakeholders board, but we want to go beyond that. All along the project, you've understood that. Make sure that in your project proposal you explain in the activities, in the implementation part, a clear role for the different actors in the work plan, from the planning, from the very beginning, during the experiments, and until the end for dissemination events, where they can maybe take a place and to the peers of the end users show that they are enthusiastic and that this is a good solution to implement, and maybe have demonstrations on their enterprises or on their farms. In order to have this good cooperation, it's useful to have sufficient number and sufficient quality of knowledge exchange activities, that these different type of actors understand each other. And it helps if you have a facilitator, maybe an advisor, or somebody from a farmers organization, or a specifically skilled person for that, who is closely related to agriculture, who can understand. And don't worry if this takes in your budget even more than 10 or 20%. It's important that the actors who have to work together understand each other and speak out on the possible problems and look for solutions together. So this is important, and we need to see that in the project proposals. Further, we need to see, and I mentioned it already, we missed this in a lot of proposals. Why? Because the researchers start to draft a proposal, they read the topics, they draft proposals, and they forgot to look where are the needs of the end users. So this is something that you need to do already earlier, at an earlier stage. Try to engage with end users and try to understand what are their main needs and work around those, and clearly illustrate, demonstrate that in the project proposals. We still have bad scores for this element in particular. Also, don't forget that it's an obligation to have in the project consortium these other type of actors. Projects with only research actors are not accepted anymore. And we need to see there a nice balance of science and practice. So one or two practical partners will not be enough. We need to see a nice balance, perhaps also geographically, in the composition of the project consortium, to have these complementary types of knowledge working together, and at the same time help then the implementation in the end. This will be judged on the soundness of the concept. And as I already mentioned, don't forget those people who can help communication and multiplication in order to strengthen the impact of the project. To have them already involved as a partner in the project. What we also ask, we see a lot of proposals where people say, I was already involved in this and this and this project. It's even an obligation if you put the CVs of the project partners. But what is missing is often what the project proposal adds to what has been done already. So you need somewhere a section that explains, we have been involved in this and that research. We have ABC resulting from that. And in this project, we're going to do X, Y, Z, building on what we already know, what we did, but we are doing something extra. We have added value. We're not just recycling projects. Of course, that's the easiest way, but it doesn't make a good impression for the evaluators. So make sure that you have a place where you really illustrate your added value on top of what you have been doing already before in former projects, with best practices of advisors, etc. Further requirements, we want output, substantial output, easy to understand for practitioners. So this means not only research abstracts, but these easy practice abstracts, just 20 lines. You can make a big number of these practice abstracts to cut your results into pieces. They have to be written in a simple language, probably together with your farmers or your end users in your project, because they know how they want to read it. And if the terminology is too difficult, they will say, I don't understand that. So they are perfect people to help you to draft in the best way practice abstracts. But don't forget, and here again, a point to be improved, use the existing dissemination channels for end users. End users go look to the website of their farmers' organization, of their advisory body, of their Ministry of Agriculture, of their enterprise federation, whatever. So that's the place where you can keep the results on the longer term, because by making another website for your project, we know on beforehand this is a website for the length of the project, and if we are lucky, maybe 3, 4, 5 years later, if somebody wants to keep it. But we know that after a certain time, all the material that has been put there will be lost. So this is a real pity. We lose millions and millions by that. So we absolutely insist on using the existing dissemination channels for end users and going to look for that. Long-term available dissemination channels that last beyond the project period and are not linked to the project owners. So that's very important, and we miss that in many projects still. Now, it looks a bit bad. I focused on the things to be improved, but we have very nice examples also already from multi-actor projects from which you can learn. The last bullet I already explained, that it's interesting if you put people from practice and people from science together. It's useful to have somebody in between who can facilitate, who can mediate, who understands the two sides. The end users, the enterprises, the farmers, they will want results, if possible, in 6 months. They're waiting for the solution for their problems for so long sometimes, and they are a bit impatient, while researchers have in-depth knowledge on that subject and they look to the longer term. So it's good to have somebody who can bring these together in a good facilitation way in workshops where they can work together. And what I already said, this involving of operational groups, there you need to be very concrete, very practical. On our EIP website, we already have 600 operational groups where you will know who is doing them and what subject do they cover. Meanwhile, we already have 1,000 operational groups. This goes very quickly now because everybody is putting more and more operational groups in place. But the website will help you to discover these operational groups. And another way is also to go to your national rural network, because they are following up operational groups in your country and they can help you to find the operational groups. And then you can not make a vague promise, which experts, evaluation experts immediately dismiss, say, okay, everybody promises to link up with operational groups. We know that. But you can make a real table with a list of operational groups that are linked to the subject of your project. And you can show that you've done your homework, let's say, and that you will bring in the knowledge of those groups and also feedback to those groups that they maybe can use with your work and your outputs. Don't make the mistake of saying that you will start up operational groups, because operational groups, they fit under the CAP, under rural development, and they are selected through dedicated calls. So you cannot start up operational groups as a consortium under Horizon. So don't make that mistake. This is a separate policy and it follows its own lines. So it's all about this, and sometimes it's a bit difficult to shock this idea. When you have opposing minds, you might have a clash, but it's through this clash that new ideas arise. You get new ways of finding a solution to apply this or that, and the enlightenment really comes, innovation really comes when these views collide. Now, if you're drafting proposals, what you will definitely want to know is how they are awarded, how the evaluation runs. For our multi-actor projects, mainly excellence is the place where it is scored. Together, of course, with whatever impact bullets refer to multi-actor approach, and of course the implementation, because there you will see really who are the exact participants and are the tasks allocated appropriately. As I said, do we have the right people? Do we have the right job they are doing? Do they have a valid role? Do they have adequate resources? Is it not just a scapegoat who is fulfilling the role of practitioner? So that's in implementation. But the main part is obviously under excellence. As I mentioned, clarity and pertinence of the objectives. They need to be focusing on end users. So that's already one sub-criteria that is in full linked with multi-actor approach. And secondly, our concept, our multi-actor approach concept has to be sound, so that it has to be logic, balanced, not 15 researchers and one practitioner, or a practitioner that is doing the wrong things or whatever. So it has to be credible. The concept has to be credible, and the methodology that you propose should be feasible. So excellence mainly, and then of course you see this in red on the slides. Also under impact you have the dissemination, which is part of the multi-actor approach. The communication is part of the multi-actor approach. The impact in general is part of multi-actor approach. And also under implementation, you have then a real assessment of the participants and the allocation of tasks. So this is obvious in the three criteria important, but mainly excellence. We have two sub-criteria for CSAs. This is for CSAs, where it's almost in full linked to multi-actor approach. In research and innovation actions, you will have the same, also clarity and pertinence of the objective, soundness of the concept, and then also innovation potential, which is not necessarily linked with multi-actor approach. But for the rest, it's a bit similar. You have the participants under implementation, the appropriateness of the tasks, etc., and also under impact, more or less the same things. If you want more info, here's a link where you can see some examples. They're a bit outdated now. They are people who started in 2014, but still. This is a slide to explain to you what is an operational group, in order that you're not confusing and thinking you can put in place operational groups. But in general, it is the same type of interactive innovation, bringing together complementary knowledge, co-creation, etc. They are under another policy, as I said, and you will find them in 27 member states. Only Luxembourg will not have operational groups, so it cannot be very difficult to find them. And in total, we have 3,200 planned. So we're now at number 1,000. We lost a lot of time with approval of the rural development programs, the calls, the national legislation. So we lost more or less 3 years, but now it's going very quickly. And we have every day more and more operational groups, and it will not be difficult to find some on your subject. We have, through the EIP network, thematic networks where operational groups are being connected with other operational groups and Horizon projects. It's very useful to join them on your subject. You can meet there, people. And in the last bullet, you can find the place where we have put those of last year when we did the study, 600 operational groups. This is an Excel file where you can find 600 operational groups. You can find who is doing the project, and you can find what they are doing. So this is new and very interesting and important for you to make it easy to involve those people in your projects. Now, how exactly can you involve operational groups in practice in your projects? There are a few strands, and I will tell you the first strand is not an obvious one. A full operational group, if he is a legal entity, which most of the time they are not, could be a partner. So this is less obvious to do. Secondly, one of the operational group partners, who is a legal entity, that's necessary for Horizon 2020, can be one of the partners or can be even a third party. This is happening more and more. You have to clearly describe this in the proposal, how this is going to happen and what role he will take up. So this is something that is more and more being applied. A third strand of combining operational groups with multi-actor project is to earmark budget under other direct costs. You can, in your proposal, have like a table with operational groups that you already contacted or that would be available to work together, and you can pay for their travels to come to common meetings or whatever with these other direct costs, as you would pay for any other event where you invite people. So it's a similar exercise as you are used doing, but you can use it to have your operational group members to come to participate in your project meetings. So this is a very easy one and a very much used one. But don't forget to describe it in your budget, in your planned activities, and also how you relate with those operational groups and the topics that they are covering. Then the last one is not one I'm very fond of. You could also mention in your project that you will relate, but there's no budget foreseen and no clear evidence that it will be done. A solution could be that you add some cooperation agreement or whatever to your project proposal, but still, if there's no budget and if people have to travel, you need budget, you have to hire rooms, etc. It is a bit not so trustworthy. It can be done. Maybe if the operational group has money for that, then you can explain that the money will come from the operational group. So I didn't want to have this fourth strand omitted, but the best one and the most used ones are number 2 and number 3. So this is a bit where we want to go to with our operational groups everywhere in Europe. The green bullets, the NRNs can help, and it's very important for you to seek for contact with our national NRNs, National Rural Network. Seek contact, speak with them. They know where the operational groups are, what they are doing, and try to work together. So really make at least once or twice a year a meeting with these people. This can really help you a lot to come to good multi-actor projects. And the multi-actor projects, then they connect these operational groups over Europe. Very short, we've had more time, so workshops and seminars can bring these people together. We had several. We had one on water, one on organic agriculture, we had one on innovative supply chains, and so forth and so further. We will continue workshops where we bring together operational groups with multi-actor projects. Some projects boost with people who were in focus groups, but focus groups are very limited exercises. They only bring together from the whole of Europe 20 experts, so that is not so convincing. It's more the use of workshops and seminars organized by the EIP AGRI service point that is very, very useful. Now, I think my time is more or less up, but I leave these slides for you to read. Practice abstracts, you can find where these practice abstracts are and what kind of info needs to go there. As I said, the contact data, it's only 20 lines, it's a common format, and it's all about producing impact and making sure that practitioners can find results of your work and can use them. So it's in this repository that you can find it. And I gave you 2 examples of practice abstract just to make it a bit more understandable. Like in this one from the Fertinova project, you can really see the 3 lines who explain the problem. Then we have 2 paragraphs explaining the solution. And then in the end, the little practical details, the 3% that you need to know. You need to know that you have to mix it in the 20-30% of the soil layers. So a number of practical things could be also very important to apply certain solutions that you have found. So this is a bit the structure. First the problem, then the solution, and then maybe some practical elements that are important. There's another example here. I leave this to read. Don't forget that the EIP also can help you to promote your project, that you have in the midterm, in the review meeting, you can discuss your practice abstracts with the experts and mostly also with us as policy officers to see if it's fine like that and to have a conversation on that. And we expect them all to be delivered by the end of the project. Here is the link to the NRNs in the last bullet, so that's important. You can speak with them at your own national level, and they can help you to get connected with operational group. They might want even to organize a meeting for you or whatever, so try to connect with those people. It's very important to link up with operational groups. We also have, and that's in the first bullet there, a brochure on multi-actor projects, but I think with this presentation you have already a lot of information. We hope that the value of all these innovative new ideas really lies in the using of it, and that we will make things that people apply and implement. This is our ultimate goal, and we see it's working well. People are happy. So let's hope we start building this EU AGIS with a better connectivity and practice application and circulation of information. These slides, again, I leave for you. It's an example of a way how you can work. It illustrates what I have been saying until now, so I just leave it to you to read it, how to draft practice abstracts, that you can recycle things that normally you would put on a leaflet that now you can put in your practice abstract. It's not so difficult. And don't forget to use also the EIP service point to help you to get people in contact with you, maybe operational groups that you are not yet in the database that can find you in this way or whatever. They have a monthly newsletter, they have a magazine, they do fact sheet and brochures, they have a calendar where you can put your events in. You can share your publication results in their publications. So here's the email address, and they can help you in promoting and connecting you with other people. So thanks a lot. I hope it's useful, and I hope you have interesting discussions.